вот, все. Да, все. Тогда уже проще. А вот, зелененький. Пока это назад, да?
«5G в эфире». Это начало новой эпохи. И пришло время воспользоваться возможностями. 5G принесет свежий взгляд в нашу жизнь. «5G вдохновит будущее невообразимым образом. Простота ведет к повышению производительности. Большая производительность приведет к желаемым результатам. Все установлено и готово. Время настало. 5G в эфире. Обеспечение повсеместного подключения. 5G ведет к лучшему будущему. Привнесем цифровизацию в каждый дом, семью и организацию для создания полностью подключенного интеллектуального мира. «5G в эфире». Это начало новой эпохи. И пришло время воспользоваться возможностями. 5G принесет свежий взгляд в нашу жизнь. «5G вдохновит будущее невообразимым образом. Простота ведет к повышению производительности. Большая производительность приведет к желаемым результатам. Все установлено и готово. Время настало. 5G в эфире. Обеспечение повсеместного подключения. 5G ведет к лучшему будущему. Привнесем цифровизацию в каждый дом, семью и организацию для создания полностью подключенного. G в эфире. Это начало новой эпохи. И пришло время воспользоваться возможностями. 5G принесет свежий взгляд в нашу жизнь. G вдохновит будущее невообразимым образом. Простота ведет к повышению производительности. Большая производительность приведет к желаемым результатам. Все установлено и готово. Время настало. 5G в эфире. Обеспечение повсеместного подключения. 5G ведет к лучшему будущему. Привнесем цифровизацию в каждый дом, семью и организацию для создания полностью подключенного интеллектуального мира.
Коллеги, доброе утро.
Colleagues, good morning. We suggest to take the floor to the panelists. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. 1, 2, 3, this is English channel speaking sound check. Once again, good morning, colleagues. This video is really cool, and you can feel twinkling. So, show must go on. The 4th Belarusian ICT Summit, the plenary meeting, IT market trends and innovations. Everyone perfectly understands that technologies rapidly change, and the right selection of technologies will define the projections and promising of our ideas and solutions. We have a good list of panelists here. I hope it's going to be interesting. I dare to start this. This is an attempt to analyze How we select the pathway of the Republic of Belarus, what trends we can see in the presentation is modern technological trends in the context of the Republic of Belarus, and the idea to take the panel.
Совершенно очевидно.
It is absolutely clear that development of ICT leads to re-engineering of social and economic systems. The things that were the main source of income 50 years ago is not longer relevant. What are the factors affecting this? First, I will refer to the Eurasian Economic Union and EDF, where countries have constitutions and there is a treaty between them, and the treaty guaranteed free circulation of capital, labor force, goods and services and capital, and the digital sector requires free data circulation, and this is predominant in generating value of goods and services. A new role of knowledge is explained not only by availability but also applicability and possibilities of generating and using it. ICT enables the society to develop through information, and therefore various innovations rapidly develop. ICT development also takes these technologies from the uniqueness stage to the Commonwealth stage, and the competitive advantages of these technologies stay for a short time, and the process of knowledge dissemination is frequently converted into the economic effect, and therefore competitive advantages are not in owning this knowledge, but in the ability to create this new knowledge. The society has come to the new level of development of ICT structure, and the data sharing and storing and processing grows rapidly. In the Republic of Belarus, we can see such trends as development of the ICT infrastructure. We are top 32 in the world. The growing number of subscribers of the internet and mobile services. We have 110% penetration of mobile communications, so we have more subscribers than the population. Development of e-commerce, development of the largest IT cluster in Eastern Europe, the high-tech park, development of e-government. These are the main prerequisites to moving to digital economy in Belarus. Creating digital economy in Belarus is the government task. The government has endorsed the digital program of development for 2020-2025, and digital transformation of the economy is defined there in the following way. What are the key indicators there? First, this is changing the main source of value in the economy by creating new and efficient processes by the digital infrastructure, and the changing of the governance, markets, and social mechanisms through digitalization. The business community of Belarus is also participating in the digital race. They value these, but the technologies are very pragmatically considered because they pick up those that are inevitable for running a business, but they do understand that without IT they won't be able to successfully compete. And the main technological trends in digital transformation of Belarus are as follows: transferring to e-documents, cloud computing, additive technologies and 3D printing, digital design and modeling of technological processes and products through the entire life cycle, platform solutions, throughput, automation of production and managerial processes in a common system, e-commerce, smart sensors in production. This is the Internet of Things in industry, application of mobile technologies for monitoring and controlling processes at production, introduction of new processes, implementation of digital twins, etc. So certainly there are risks associated with this. In the Industrial Revolution, we can see the things that change the social and economic development. First, development through application of new competences, but not through reducing direct costs. Second, digitalization that comprises real and virtual world and augmented reality. Third is the joint innovations. They change demand and supply, create new opportunities. Modern trends and the digital transformation is not an absolute paradigm of the society. We have to manage negative trends, effects, risks, and threats. According to the experts, by 2030, 9% of production processes will be automated and 50% of workplaces and jobs will not longer exist. And the divide between the technological development of various countries and populations, depending on the opportunity to participate in digitalization and to use IP to be innovative, will get many into the trap of the technological lagging, and this will create new global risks and will undermine nations. We have no other way but to implement digital technologies to support the country and its competitiveness on the global scale. Thank you.
And now, as said before, infrastructure is developed, 32nd rank in ITU rating, and this is a serious achievement. We are a leader in CIS member states, but we would like to listen to the regional ITU regional office for the CIS region, the regional director, because infrastructure is infrastructure, but the dimensions and the trends, that is the core of the digital development. Thank you very much, Pavel. I have a short presentation, if possible. Could you please display it? Yes, here it is. It's great. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. I do welcome all of you. My name is Natalia Mochu. I'm the Regional Director for ITU Regional Office for the CIS region. And I see Mr. Bogdanov. Good afternoon. And yesterday there was the opening of the exhibition, and the Director General and the Secretary General gives his regards and success to this gathering, and he physically was present at tibo's conferences last years and knows quite well Belarus. But meanwhile, I'd like to focus your attention on the information and the statistics that will be displayed in my presentation on the infrastructure development. And as Pavel, you said it correctly, quite likely this is a basis for the further development and stemming from the existing infrastructure and skills and abilities and digitalization, and it gives the follow-up chance for digital development and development of the country. And you were humble to say that you have a serious rank in the ITU rating, 32nd, and it's great because Belarus is a rather advanced country in the CIS region and in the world as well. And some figures will be displayed in the screen. I would like very briefly to explain what ITU is. Quite likely you know, but there are three pillars. That is radio connection and coordination of different frequencies, standardization of telecommunication, harmonization and development of international standards so that we can all cooperate and interoperate, and the development of telecom operation to reduce the digital gap, as I may say it, and the provision and support of different projects and programs in the countries that aim at the reduction of the digital gap. So we have quite an extensive company, and our regional office is located in Moscow, where the representation is quite wide. And here you see the dots of the presence of the ITU and the key thematic priorities, our activities. So I may not go into detail all of them, but you see that the priorities that are identified by the member states include the information infrastructure, cybersecurity, the high priority in our activities, and the connection in disasters and emergencies, and the human capacity, the statistical data as well required to be collected properly and analyzed properly, to take evidence-based decisions for the development of policies and regulations in the industry. So the policy for the regulation of ICT, digital services and applications, we see that this dimension develops more and more. Environment protection, this is also an integral part, because when we produce and use so many devices, we must understand how to dispose of them after quite frequently we replace them with something new. And the digital inclusion as well, and it is about the remote areas, the people with disabilities, the people living in small localities, women, girls, young people, all those who, due to any reasons, have restricted access to the use of ICT services. In my slide, moving on to the statistics, you see that there is the global data for the digital development. And indeed, without going into detail, we see the consistent growth. And in mobile connection, it is a bit higher. In stationary connection, it's a bit lower. And a steady growth of internet users and so on and so forth. And I could not but mention that the development and even some boom last year was caused by COVID. You know, there is such a joke. What contributed to digital transformation in your country? The CEO or the COVID-19? And most people say that COVID-19 became the reason of the accelerated digital transformation. But as noted, COVID, despite all the impediments and challenges for the development, it opens up great opportunities for development. And we should be optimistic to post-COVID years, about post-COVID years. And this way we may project and plan strategically the follow-up development. And sharing some statistics about CIS region, only a few figures will be provided for CIS region as such, and then for Belarus in particular. You may find these statistics on the website of the ITU. For example, you see quite a substantial growth over the last few years in the number of users of internet, in the number of users of mobile connection, of stationary connection. So the figures may not be phenomenal, but they are steady in terms of the number of the users of mobile connection. Pavel, you said it, that the number of users is higher than the population by 100 people, and in our region it is vivid, it is obvious quite clearly, and this indicator for all the member states is higher than the average. In Russia, 164 subscribers per 100 users. This is the official data received by ITU from the member states. So this data is also provided for your consideration and information, whereas the average indicator is 105 only. So therefore, you may conclude why there is such a trend in our region. Well, regarding the international capacity, we see that the trends of growth over the 3 years in percentage are displayed here, and you see that in most countries there is a good indicator of growth. Uzbekistan in particular, and in early 2015 it was almost zero, whereas now over the last 3-4 years the growth is 134%. So good indicators of performance in Armenia, Azerbaijan, Russian Federation. Different reasons, but nonetheless the region as such shows good performance. In terms of the users of internet, the data is for the limited number of countries depending on who provided this data, but we see that almost in all the countries here it's over 80% of the population. Another important parameter, a part of infrastructure, is digital skills. And here it must be said that this is the driver of growth driver. If the level of basic skills is more or less developed, then in terms of the average levels or the advanced levels of skills, the data is either not available, so it is not collected and is not analyzed, or these parameters are very low. And I believe that our countries, and Belarus in particular, this element, this component is to be developed further. And a few statistics about Belarus. Yesterday, the resource, the Board of the Digital Development, was launched, and a link is on the website, and there you may filter out by the country and get the key indicators of the development for each country and all the other countries you are interested in, and it represents over 200 economies, global economies, and the statistics about Belarus, there is a lot. And you can see it on the slide. And I would like to reiterate that Belarus is an advanced country, and one of the parameter or indicator that is followed, that is the number of users of mobile users by gender, men and women. And Belarus is the only country almost where there are more women using mobile devices rather than men. So this is an interesting trend, statistics about Belarus. In terms of the use of the internet, again, the indicators are rather high, 83%, and the speed is quite good. And I believe that here Belarus is having a good performance, and it's not by accident that she enjoys a good standing in the international ranking. In terms of the barriers or impediments to the development, the aggregated data suggest that more attention should be paid to digital skills, and not only digital skills of telecom sector, so telecom operators, but the basic or advanced skills in population, because having the developed infrastructure and moving to the creation of digital platforms and the provision of e-services, this element, without the relevant skills by the citizens, so they won't be able to benefit from these resources and from all those benefits the country offers. So the development of the country is not possible, and its digital transformation is not possible. And the figures, by the way, indicated here suggest this. And in terms of the activities of ITU and the way we shape our work and some strategic planning we have, I'd like, using this opportunity, to update you and invite all of you to one of the key conferences that determines the trends of the development priorities of the countries of each region. That is the Global Conference on Telecom Development that was expected to be held in November this year, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the ITU member states decided to postpone it to the middle of the next year. And the conference itself, by the way, and the member states taking part in it, determine the strategies and the objectives of ICT development for the future. This is a 4-year cycle, and Belarus is our active partner in preparation of this conference for the telecommunication development. And 1.5 months at the region, there was a preparatory meeting held where we discussed the latest trends that are of priority for the region, so that we focus our attention to those assignments and tasks to be addressed in the region. And to date, we have 5 key tracks identified by the region itself, including infrastructure, e-health, inclusive education, smart cities, and climate change. And here you see some of these dimensions. They are very specific, but this is because the states at that point determined these priorities as their burning issues or burning challenges, and all the details about what have already been implemented under each of these dimensions. A lot has been done in terms of the guidelines, expertise provision, and experience exchange, and setting up platforms for this experience exchange. All this information can be found on our website. So I do encourage you to get to know this information. And while preparing for our next conference I mentioned above, we tried to review those requests we receive from the countries and map them into some groups so that we understand where are the bottlenecks or those topics that need additional exploration in our countries. And in particular, we identified or revealed 5 areas, including ICT infrastructure, I believe quite standard dimensions: cybersecurity, digital transformation, digital skills, and smart and sustainable cities. And for these dimensions, there were detailed studies arranged, and the presentation, if it is available to ICT members, ICT Summit participants, there are the links to these surveys and studies, and the surveys were carried out in the form of interviewing the respondents, and in particular for ICT dimension there were Belarusian telecom operators, and desktop research was carried out to identify the growth drivers. And at the regional preparatory meeting, our countries confirmed that these areas are of their priority, and to date the countries cooperate with us to detail further all these areas. We are hopeful to be approved in mid next year, and this way we will be able to work in a targeted way with each member state in the region within the next 4 years. Therefore, the scope of work until 2025 is quite broad, and I believe that it is quite vivid, and that these areas are in line with the provisions of your digital development program, and we, the ITU, is open to provide support and assistance in the areas required, in those areas which you believe promising and interesting for your country. And in particular, we know that the area of smart and sustainable cities is a very consistent and intensively developing and actively developing. And we are very pleased that in Belarus in particular we hold our forum on smart sustainable cities, and this year it was hosted in March this year as well, despite the pandemic. And there is a pilot project that is initiated, and it is in process with you, our partners in the field, and those practical issues that are addressed, not only the projects but the pilot projects and the technical assistance provided, will help and support Belarus in its progress and achieving higher ranks in international rankings, and most importantly to ensure comfort of the country's citizens in using all these benefits. And at this point, I'd like to stop, leaving the contact details of our regional office. You may contact or review those materials, recommendations, guides, guidelines, or events that are held and conducted by ITU and regional office. We are open for broadening our cooperation and continuation of our cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalia Vyacheslawovna. Please be seated. We would like to ask a question, but I think it's a question to us, but I know the answer. They say top 32, and others say it's better to be top 30. And the question is how to get there, but whether it is possible to advise a leader how to do it the best. And when you see your presentation, you have to improve each of these dimensions, as it has been said, like in Alice in the Wonderland, in order to stay in one place, you have to run, and if you want to progress, you have to run even faster. So I asked the question and I answered it. Is that right? Yes, thank you for your question. In fact, it is a nice question, and I would like to elaborate more to your answer to your question. The job is not to become top one in the international ranking, but to become better next year if compared to the baseline year, because we have to be realistic. Every country tries to develop and to improve its indicators. To a large extent, those who are top 30 continue developing, and it seems to me looking at the rating is important. And it should be done, but it should be done through the optics of where there are points of growth for your particular country based on the objectives that you have. And the indicator is a very subjective leverage. So we have to focus on those objectives that you set to yourself and pursue the goals that you have set for your country. If we look at the discussion of the IDI index in ICT development, then why it has not been published for a number of years? Because they collect data, they publish general data, but the information development index has not been published for a number of years. This is because member states cannot agree what sub-indices to be included and how to calculate them. In India, they are focused on mobility. These indicators are huge for them, and certainly it's interesting for them to include this sub-index in this general indicator in order for India to get a higher ranking. Korea is focused on other rankings and indices, and Russia is focused on other indices. Therefore, in all discussions on the international arena, we have to consider that the values of the indices should be tied with the objectives and goals of your country, depending on your geography, your population coverage, the number of cities and rural settlements, etc. And then the country will be developed, and then the country will be happy by itself, not by showing it off to the world. You just fulfill your objectives. That's the most optimal attitude. Thank you very much. If we speak about mobile networks, we know that we have 4Gs, we have we speak about the new networks that are being developed, 4G, 5G, 6G. We are passing the floor to Huang Chan, Deputy Director of Bell Huawei Technologies LLC, who will dwell on 5.5G, transforming from IoT to smart connections of all things. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am very happy that I have the opportunity to participate in the 17th International ICT Forum, tibo 2021 in Belarus, and to discuss the future of the ICT industry. Today, I will make a presentation, 5.5G, transforming from IoT to smart connections of all things.
5G 愿景，以牵引5G 产业发展和演进，增强生命力，为社会发展和行业升级持续创造新的价值。
As all of us know, industrial internet requires constant development, and IoT requires constant development as the most important technology for the next decade. 5G depends on the short-term investments on the ecosystem, in the midterm evolution of technologies in the long term. In case of fast and rapid deployment of 5G and the requirements of sectors and vertical sectors, there's more expansion of 5G will be required, ensuring various communications and improved connection, and moving into the from the smart connection of all things to the smart connections of all things, and this will have particular requirements to the networks based on the previous experience on the ICT area. And considering the evolution, Huawei sees its own development of 5G in order to guide the evolution in 5G and to improve its resilience to create new values for social development and digitalization of industry. So, what is 5.5G?
所以，在 ITU 定义的大带宽、广链接和低时延3大标准场景上，继续拓展了上行超带宽、宽带实时交互和通信感知融合3个新的场景，把 5G 的三角形变为更丰富的6边形，从支撑万物互联到使能万物智联，这便是 5.5G。
As the smart upgrading of the industry develops, the IT scenarios become more diversified. Some of the scenarios require massive communications and ultra broadband communications. In some communications, it is important to ensure both perception and communications. Therefore, a broad bandwidth and massive communications of MCSC and low delay URLLC are required. There are 3 new scenarios expanded from the broadband communications to uplink. This is probing and communications, and 5.5G converts the triangular of 5G into a 6-angular figure, into creating the smart connection of all things.
可以给社会发展和行业升级创造怎么样的新价值呢？
What are the new values that can create new scenarios for 5.5G for social development and upgrading of the industry?
上行超带宽，加速千行百业智能化升级。UCBC 场景在 5G 能力基线实现上行带宽能力10倍提升，满足企业生产、制造等场景下机器视觉、海量宽带物联等上传需求，加速千行百业智能化升级。同时 ，UCBC 也能大幅提升手机在室内深度覆盖的用户体验，可大幅提升上行容量和深度覆盖的用户体验。
First of all, the UCBC source channel with ultra-wide bandwidth speeds up smart upgrading of various sectors. The UCBC scenario has the bandwidths that are improved by tenfold, and this is based on the 5G baseline scenario. This improves machine vision and expanded IoT in the scenarios of industrial production and in improving many sectors. UCBC improves the user experience in wide coverage in rooms and the ability of the outbound channel, and it becomes more user-friendly.
身临其境的沉浸式体验 ，RTBC 场景支持大带宽和低时延交互时延，目标是在给定时延和一定可靠性的 可靠性要求的带宽提升10倍，打造人与虚拟世界交互时的沉浸式体验。
Second, broadband communication of RTBC in real time ensures the submerging effect, and the RTBC scenario shortens the delay and expands the bandwidth by 10 times, and the delay is still the same, and this creates new experience when people deal with the virtual world.
融合感知通信，助力自动驾驶发展。HCS 主要使能的是车联网和无人机2大场景，支撑自动驾驶技术。自动驾驶是关键需求。通过将蜂窝网络 Massive MIMO 的波束扫描技术应用于感知领域，使得 HCS 场景下能够提供通信，又能够提供感知。如果延展到室内场景，还可以提供定位服务。
Third, HCS ensures that communications improve autonomous driving. HCS ensures the operations of drones and motor vehicles. Massive AO in the probing in the sensing area ensures sensing in the HCS scenarios, and if it is provided in the premises, then the localization services can also be provided.
最大化频谱价值，要达成产业愿景，5.5G 需要在 SUP 100G 内使用更多的频谱，从而实现全频段上下行解耦、全频段按需零和聚合，重构 SUP 100G 赫兹使用模式，最大化频谱价值。
Fourth, to reinsure the modes of the spectrum of sub 100 gigahertz are used in the 5.5G frequency range needs to use more frequencies in sub 100 gigahertz in order to improve the quality of inbound and outbound channel in the entire frequency range, the flexible aggregation of all frequencies and reconstruction of the spectrum of frequencies lower than 100 gigahertz in order to expand the values in the spectrum.
让 5G 连接更高智能。5G 时代，运营商的频段数量、终端类型、业务类型、客户类型都会远高于之前的任何一个制式。化繁为简 ，5.5G 需要与 AI 全面融合。
Fifth, plus AI. AI makes the 5G communications smarter. The providers will have more types of services, more types of clients and services than before. In order to do that, it is important to integrate 5.5G with AI.
5G 需要兼容所有的 5G 设备。5.5G 需要实现 SUP 100G 赫兹全频段按需灵活使用。5.5G 需要以 AI 深度融合，实现空口加 AI、网络加 AI、服务加 AI， 以应对网络多样化需求、能耗管理等诉求。
5.5G is the product of evolution of the 5G networks, and it should be compliant with all 5G devices. The range of 5.5G should be used flexibly in the range of less than 100 gigahertz. 5.5G requires close integration with Plus AI and the network of Plus AI and the services of Plus AI in order to satisfy the requirements for energy consumption and communications.
万物互联到万物智联的需求，当前仅仅是研究的起步阶段，还需要继续坚持开放和多元化的学术精神，继续开放升级、科研升级、合作升级，产业和学术界和研究机构持续共同协作，推动基础技术的发明和基础理论的突破，构建和共享数字社会生态圈，抓住数字化转型的机遇，共建智能世界。
Speaking of 5G, the company has the following vision in order to comply to move from the Internet of all things to smart connections of all things. In the meantime, this research is in an early phase, and we have to keep the spirit of openness, cooperation, and industry and academic institutions continue merging their efforts to design main technologies and to make breakthrough technologies to create a digital ecosystem, to use digital transformation, and to jointly build a smart world.
谢谢各位，希望我们一起精诚合作。
Спасибо.
Thank you, everyone, and we hope for open and long-term cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is one question, if I may. No? No? No possibility? Look, there is 5G we are still planning, whereas there is 5.5G. It's something, it's a fantasy. So television 8K will be senseless to develop as it goes beyond the capacity of human eye. Can we say that 6G technology in future could satisfy the needs of everyone and there is nowhere to develop?
好的，谢谢，非常谢谢先生您的提问。其实对于刚才您的提问的问题呢，我们是这么思考的。基于现在5G再往之前，就是从2、3、4G 到5G这一个过程当中，其实人们对就是网络的诉求更多的是下行的速率，但是对上行的，就是整个速率交互以及上行的这些，并没有做要求。另外呢，对这个智能化的诉求，并不是特别的强，所以在未来6G的时代，我们理解是在上行速率，还有就是智能化这一块会有进一步的探索或者提升。
We believe that 6G, 7G, 8G, and etc., the period until the development of 5G is the time for the development and satisfaction of the basic needs of the population. These are the key basic functionalities that are demanded by the users. But regarding 6G and over, that is the introduction of intelligence technologies and the creation of intellectual world. Thank you very much. Well, dear colleagues, 5G, 5.5G, frequently they ask, and what does Beltelecom think? Well, Yuri, what does Beltelecom think about the development of its country in the area of digital transformation of the economy? Thank you, Pavel. So please welcome Yuri Petruchenya, CEO, Beltelecom. Well, dear colleagues, there is a task to introduce 5G and other technologies, and it's not a secret that the basis, the fundamental infrastructure for the introduction of these technologies is Beltelecom networks. We made a short presentation, and since Beltelecom as such is the national operator, telecom provider, I will use some country-specific criteria so that I can present the purposes of our infrastructure items and our vision and our place in the context of the digital transformation of economy. As you know, Belarus borders on 5 countries, including Lithuania, Latvia, Russia, Ukraine, and Poland. And the population of the country is 9.3 million. The flooring area is over 207 square meters. Belarus has 3,800,000 households, and it is a critical indicator, very important, not the number of localities, but the targeted work of us in each locality or settlement in every segment, and we also have direct dealings with each household. The Republican Unitary Enterprise, Beltelecom, is a leader in telecom market of Belarus. Over 25 years, it has been developing the technologies that are important for the community and the businesses. Millions of corporate clients can benefit from the high-quality services, telecom services, and we work to introduce progressive and cutting-edge digital technologies and services for the population and businesses. It was set up on the 3rd of July in 1995 as a Republican Unitary Enterprise, whereas in 2004 it was changed into the Republican Unitary Enterprise of radio telecommunication. At present, it includes 9 branches, and the company employs over 14,000 people, whereas we started with 30,000 people when we turned into one common enterprise. Last year we celebrated 25th anniversary, and throughout its history we have our mission to bring together people, provide freedom in the receipt of the information. Beltelecom is a leader in telecommunications market of Belarus. About 95% of the users of stationary connection are the users of Beltelecom. We also provide bandwidth connection with the share of 83% on the market. The subscribers of broadband and the penetration is 28%. The company is a leader in the segment of TV services. The share of Beltelecom at present is 57% of all the users of TV services in the country, and the penetration of this service per 100 people is 26%. Dear colleagues, quite often it is believed that Beltelecom is a monopoly company, but I would like once again at this high-level gathering to discuss, not actually discuss, but announce it again, whether we could view the Beltelecom as a monopoly company. As you know, the database of telecom operation is 4.2 million, and the total database of mobile operators is 12 million subscribers. And in terms of the broadband connection, when we started to develop this technology, it was back in 2006. We started to deploy the networks, and we back then started from password-free access to the internet, and actually we had very low speed, and even in Minsk we were not the leader in the provision of broadband services. And only in 2011, after the strategic decision made on introduction of GPON technologies, we started to develop this technology very actively, and today we dominate on the market of broadband connection, internet connection. Our database of subscribers today has 2,436,000 subscribers. And therefore, by evolving, we managed to generate this database. In terms of TV services and telecommunication, and our broadband services are the key 3 services. And we only in 2009 we started to introduce onto the market the TV service called Zala, and back then on the market there were a lot of cable connection operators, and with zero database of subscribers today, we have over 50% share on the market, TV market. Because the technology of interactive television with the delayed watching was of high benefit, and we managed to achieve the results that we have today. Therefore, I believe that clearly Beltelecom could not be viewed as the monopolist, because this is the evolution of the company. In 2010, over 2010-2020, Belarus improved substantially its position in terms of the development of ICT. The country today is 32 in the ITU rating, and is a leader in the development of ICT in CIS region. The growth in the key indicators of ICT index and the penetration of broadband connection, internet connection, is mostly because of the policies of Beltelecom for the development and improvement of telecom infrastructure. In line with the information of the Council of Europe that hosted a conference, the penetration of fiber and optical networks to households, and as of the results of 2019, Belarus was the second in Europe, only being after is Iceland, and according to the projections or the forecast of our work in 2020, Belarus is a leader, number one, in terms of the penetration of the fiber and optic networks in households in Europe. Beltelecom actively participates in the governmental policy digital development of Belarus for 2021-2025. At present, the company constructed and put into effect dozens of hundreds of fiber and optical networks. All the localities have the access to this cable, and at the end of 2021, Beltelecom provided these fiber lines, connection line, to all the settlements with the number of households of 100 and over. And this way we can reduce the digital inequality and provide the citizens of Belarus equal access to the information resources. In 2011, we adopted a very important strategic decision on the introduction of the technologies of passive optic broadband networks. GPON technology can provide high-quality access to high-speed telecom services, and 100% optical node provides the high quality of signal transmission of voice and image, and increases the speed many times. And the number of users of GPON is over 2.7 subscribers. Beltelecom has an ambitious agenda to provide the connection to all the residential buildings with high-speed technology of GPON. In 2015, this work has been done, meaning that all the households in residential buildings, according to the results of 2019, have access to these fiber and optical networks. And the indicator of the total number of users of GPON services is over 64%, and the services of intellectual platform is used by over 66% of the subscribers of stationary broadband connection. Beltelecom is continuously evolving, is creative in finding new promising areas. A keen eye is put on the development of the concept smart city. In this area, there are a number of projects implemented that are of high interest to our subscribers. Our portfolio has the services of video control and smart house, and there is a prospect of smart office. And these apps will require higher characteristics of mobile connection and internet connection that could not be implemented on the existing networks. And because of this, Beltelecom plans to develop networks of new generation based on the existing networks and on the networks, 5G networks. I'm a bit lagging behind my presentation. I do apologize. Look, over the last years, the telecom market is very penetrated, and there is a slowdown in the growth of database of subscribers. And it is typical for Beltelecom. And as a promising decision, there are convergence networks that will increase the possibility to satisfy the needs of final users based on mobile and IP technologies. Our focus on convergent services is because of our understanding that subscribers don't need the means of the delivery of services, but the consistent and high-quality services provided irrespective of the location of our client, of our customer. The development of the networks of new generation, including 5G, is impossible without stemming from the quite varied transport system. And at present, Beltelecom provided and enjoys the largest infrastructure, and today we have over 135,000 kilometers in total. Today, the linear structures, we have about 65,000 kilometers of linear networks, including 135,000 kilometers of fiber and optical networks. And there are three approaches used in the points Minsk regional centers, and there are the special networks, and the broadband capacity is 3.4 terabits per second. And in addition to that, 100% households in residential buildings in all the regions and settlements where the number of such households is over 100. In terms of the main purpose and the basic purposes of 5G, there are three key pillars, or three key scenarios, as we call them. This is super broadband mobile connection with high speed from 1.5 gigabits a second, which is 100 times higher than in 4G networks. And it is for the access to multimedia interactive services, big data for the wide array of users. The second, that is reliable network with low delays, and there are very robust requirements for the speed and delays in the signal and the timely delivery of services, which is 8 times higher than in 4G networks. This focuses the corporate and governmental sector, and wireless distribution and management in smart integrated networks, integrated systems of safety management on roads. And the third scenario, this is massive or intensive intermachinery connection to connect different devices, 300,000 on one base station, 100 times higher than in 4G networks. These systems require accessibility of networks and low price of final devices, quite often sensors and meters, and their ability to operate without charging for a long time. Dear friends, for the time being, Beltelecom does not have a license of as mobile provider, but in January we started a pilot project in the industrial park, Chinese industrial park Great Stone, and we simulated the implementation of 5G in city residential area, and in parallel we deployed a similar pilot project in Kopel Oblast district, where there are 2 basic stations with the broadband of 70 megahertz. And there is 3.5 gigawatts in Greystone. And we got the interesting data in terms of the efficiency of the implementation of this technology, in particular from the point of view of the coverage of the rural areas with the minimum costs, at least comparable costs. And in case the network is to be developed on our traditional models by constructing the fiber networks, then the reduction of costs is threefold in this case with new technology. The deployment of 5G network globally. So there are 3 radio frequencies: low frequency, high frequency up to 6 gigahertz, and super frequency to deploy 5G networks. This is what I told you about. The lower 690, 790 with the broadband in low density areas to cover large areas. This is what has been tested so far. The broadband of 3.4, 3.6 gigahertz for highly densely populated areas, including, so this pilot has been already implemented in the Greystone, and the super frequency bands that is to be used for the replacement of Wi-Fi by integration of radio modules in the terminal devices, final devices of GPON network. And at the same time, the use of the 2 broadbands is quite challenging because of the used frequencies for TV service or the satellites. But they will be freed until the end of 2021, and Beltelecom again is the operator or the implementing agency of this works. So, the continuous growth of the population, transport cost and environment-related challenges, the requirements of the businesses and their services for the population requires digital transformation of the life in modern cities. And to address the challenges above, there is a concept of smart city, which provides for the development and introduction of innovative solutions for the management of city infrastructure, ensuring collection and processing of big data, and the analysis of which will enable us to forecast the developments and to prevent the disasters and provide numerous services to the citizens and improve the comfort of their living. Smart city provides for the introduction of these solutions in utilities, transport, industry, agriculture, education, and the provision of security, insurance of security, and others. Well, we actively work on the implementation of the concept of smart city. At our stand, you can see the elements of safe city via the service of video control. There is the analytics. We have a service Smart House, which has over 60,000 subscribers. Today, we are designing the project USKIS, that is the collection of information from engineering networks and smart networks in buildings, and in part we do this work already. Today, Beltelecom improves the volume and the quality of services provided to meet the needs of clients in full. The next step is to develop and introduce the projects Smart Office, Smart House as an integral part of the concept Smart City. This is a comprehensive solution for individuals and corporations, turnkey, starting from the development of the infrastructure and communication and provision of cloud services, virtual reality, and the expansion of telephony and other services. One of the areas of our work of Beltelecom is hosting services. The first platform of data clearance was put into effect in 2006. Beltelecom, as such, was the first commercial hosting provider with its own hub. At present, Beltelecom provides hosting services and location of equipment for individuals and businesses, and is an authorized provider of internet services and hosting services, the emails as well. And Beltelecom has platforms in Minsk and other regions combined into one distributed network for the provision of hosting services. In 2021-2025, Beltelecom plans to develop this sector as well by almost doubling the capacity of its platforms. New capacities will be implemented on the use of the latest technologies, and Beltelecom plans to certify some of its platforms in terms of their reliability. And this way we will be able to provide hosting services to those organizations that require official confirmation of the reliability of hosting services by Beltelecom. So briefly, I updated you about those initiatives and priorities we have, our achievements to date, and we are deeply integrated in the process of further transformation of our economy and other industries. We cooperate with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and the subordinate organizations of these ministries and many other enterprises in terms of the development of our infrastructure for follow-up transformation and introduction of digital solutions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Yuri Nikolaevich. It is clear that Beltelecom carefully studies the opportunities to penetrate the mobile communications network, and I understand that you would like to compete with your rivalry to get subscribers, not only to build the convergent networks, but also to build the subscriber networks. I wouldn't say so. In fact, we respect our partners, and rivalry presented by mobile providers and certainly the quality of service delivered by them is not what we want to take. Not so fast. But in terms of providing convergent services, this is the resilience need. It's a vital need for us and to our clients. First of all, we follow the needs and desires of our clients. In fact, our partners, our mobile providers, have the same trend, but they do the reverse process. They penetrate the fixed networks. Therefore, I think we do not compete for individual users, but for integrated, efficient solutions. Thank you for your answers. Well, calling them not your competitors but your partners, this is worthwhile. Yes, this enables to assess their capacity and to set the right goals and objectives. Thank you very much. I would ask a question to Alexey Alexandrovich, probably. Well, in fact, Yuri Nikolaevich said that we have been working on purifying the spectrum, the frequencies, but what about the transboundary areas? What about the neighboring states? Will we have any conflicts with them regarding the frequencies? What about the microphone? In fact, I can go to the rostrum Okay. Speaking of the near border areas, as the European countries are concerned, we have addressed all issues for 5G, especially the Geneva Point 6 plan has been finalized, and this is about 5G. As for the Russian Federation, I know that tomorrow and today we're going to listen to the Russian presentations as 700 range is considered. Russia includes this for the 5G in the future, but still it is used for digital broadcasting. And we do not know the particular terms, but it is expected to have bilateral efforts to set the rules or the terms or the connection mechanisms. The 3.4 and 3.800 ranges are concerned. It is lagging behind, but we are discussing it with Russia. Colleagues, any presentation today is on 5G, no matter what we do. Therefore, next presenter, the head of marketing and mobile telesystems, Vitaly Adorsky, Head of Marketing Department, Mobile Telesystems, GLLC, with the presentation 5G technology, promising use cases. Yes, we understand that 5G networks are quite expensive and building it is not enough. You have to think of building the network plus the turnkey solutions, because waiting for the subscribers, the individuals, this is not justified. Huawei would let us know how many phones they sold with the 5G phones. If you provided this information, it would be great. But we would like to know your vision. I will report this. I will get you this information because I will tell you about the 5G developments in the world. You will see these figures. I would like to start by saying that, first of all, I welcome you on behalf of Mobile Telesystems in this rooms, conference halls. There are a few other colleagues of mine who make presentations on the Internet of Things, on the development of our sector, and we are a telecom provider, and telecom operators are leading the digital transformation process, and definitely it is a pleasure for us to see that. So let's move forward. In fact, yes, my presentation is first of all on the 5G technology and the advantages or opportunities that the technology provides to develop digital services, the ICT services, the IT services. A brief overview. Here we can see let's move to the next slide. The advantages that we will get through the 5G. First of all, we speak about better or broader bandwidth. We have 150 megabit per second, and the peak speed in 5G will be 20 gigabit per second, and 5G has a lower delay, which is critical to many cases, which I have also mentioned, and I will mention this. And the third advantage of 5G is a big density, which enables you to have up to 1 million connected devices serviced by one station. I'd like to say that the 5G technology implementation started in 2019, and we have to say that this technology develops faster. So for 3G to get 500 million users and subscribers in 3G, it took them 9 years. In the 4G technology, we spent 6 years for that, and in the meantime, as far as 5G is concerned, more than 350 million subscribers use it around the world, and we project that the 500 million users will be in early 2022. In the meantime, in the world, as of April 2021, there are more than 162 commercial networks in about 70 countries. Right now, the ecosystem of 5G terminals is exploiting, and more than half of the devices are smartphones with 5G support, and the 350 subscribers are there connected and serviced as 5G subscribers. Here we can see some of the providers from 68 countries. It is worthwhile saying that South Korea and China set the trends, and from them 5G started being implemented. As the systems of 5G also actively develop and evolve. By the end of this year, we expect a radical decrease of the cost of the devices. Today, 5G is available for among all smartphone producers. We expect that by the end of the year, this technology will be typical to the smartphones of the medium price range, which will enable setting the trend for the future. This will be the baseline for the future because the users will have devices of 5G. Speaking of the key areas of application of 5G, we can divide the upper level into several cohorts. This is in B2C, by people and households, and industry. I will dwell on each of these segments, and I will start with the most widespread case. This is household internet through 5G. In fact, there are some advantages of 5G that I have mentioned. A broad bandwidth ensuring good internet speed, and over 50 subscribers around the world use this 5G technology to deploy household networks home networks that have been mentioned before by Yuri Nikolaevich using the 5G technology. This significantly reduces the return of investment. This enables to get better user experience because the peak speeds of 5G have already been mentioned by me, and the real connection speed, as one of the providers said, is about this is higher several times than the typical speed from the providers, and this is the easiness of deployment of the network. You don't have to spend months or years to deploy the network. One of the cases that are scaled up by the providers that have deployed 5G, this is watching videos in the 4K format on our stand. You can see that 5G enables watching the 4K Ultra HD videos without buffering, without delays, and this is one of the advantages. Speaking of XR, AR, and VR video through 5G, this is for the future. In the meantime, everything is about the ecosystem of the devices. We expect that in the nearest few years we will see devices that will be both affordable and consumable, because, for example, today VR goggles are not to the level that would ensure comfortable user experience. Cloud mobile gaming is one of the areas used in 5G by the 5G operators. The key value is that the user doesn't have to update or procure expensive devices, home-based devices. Everything happens in the cloud, and a usual smartphone enables to play mobile games using 5G. And now a few more words about such a thing as using 5G in the B2B segment. In fact, when developing this technology, the designers of the technology positioned it as the technology for using in the business segment. There are services that are actively used, like video monitoring and direct broadcasting. In particular, this is the AR and VR control elements, and this is video analytics. and sharing video and broadcasting, and part of these services are available on our stand. If you are interested, please come over and we will get you into the details of the technology. On our stand, you can see the cases of automated inventory of warehousing through drones, and through sharing videos from the drones to the data center where the data is processed instantly. And here it is interesting that only 5G today enables you to share large volumes of video data with a low delay time, both from the drone and to the drone as well. This is the list of promising scenarios of using the 5G technology in the B2B and B2G scenarios. Every of these scenarios has some pilots already done by various providers in the world. Therefore, using this technology and its application will cover all sectors of the economy, starting from industry and construction to agriculture, healthcare, and education. And in the end, I would like to say that we have our vision on 5G development in Belarus. MTS company supports the competitive model of deploying the 5G networks in the country. We have numerously mentioned it. The first pilot was launched in January 2020, and it was the range of 3.6, 3.7 gigahertz, and we were the first provider in Belarus in the post-Soviet area of to launch a standalone, and we used the 1.8, 3.5 gigahertz frequencies, and we also have the standalone solution deployed on our stand. So if you want to see the advantages, if you want to eyewitness the advantages of 5G, come over to our stand and we'll show you. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer either now or in the behind the curtains. We can see the Minister of Communications with us asking the question in the end of the conference hall. I have the following question. You asked about the 5G deployment according to the competitive model, but considering what you presented, there are lots of devices, many cases, the traffic will grow. Whether your network is ready to respond to these technical challenges in order not to violate the implementation period for 5G, in order for this not to take a decade. So we plan 5 years to make it happen, but this is if you meet these requirements. Well, in fact, we are getting ready. In the meantime, we are in the active phase of the competition, and based on the requirements of that you've presented, we have already considered the phases of deployment of our networks. So phases 1 and 2 will definitely be implemented within the time frame set. So, from the decision-making moment, 5 years, will it be a good time that will enable you to do that? Yes, this time is enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please take your seat. Dear friends, they all say that one of the possible uses of 5G is to build the platforms, Internet of Things platforms, and therefore we would like to learn some practices of IoT platform as a universal tool for digital transformation of businesses, societies, government. Semyon Nechaim, Director of New Land Technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like in my presentation discuss the practical application of the technologies discussed today. The future is already here, has already come, and in my I'd like to share with you my insights of how the IoT platform will help us resolve those challenges faced by societies, businesses, and governments. New land technology. So Beltelecom was established in 1995, and we are celebrating our 25th anniversary in August this year. And throughout these years, we were developing the different telecom services, including other telecom providers and Beltelecom. We actively participate in exhibitions, international exhibitions, and tibo. We are a certified partner of a number of international companies, and our operations are certified with ICO 9000 2015 EDAC. The technology of IoT today offers the possibilities for digital transformation of society, business, government. What do we have to offer for businesses? For them, digital technologies are a good way to streamline their processes, reduce the costs, and optimize the profits, and prevent them from new risks and open up new opportunities. The government, by using digital technologies, it also gets a chance to optimize all its business processes, including improvement of its cooperation with the society, improve the safety and security of the state, and become a driver of social development. You know that in our country, a lot of attention is paid to this process. There is a program for the development of digital future of Belarus for another 5 years. And it's true that we believe that the implementation of this program will provide benefits to the society as well, and they will enable the society to get a totally new level of quality of service provision by public authorities, new tools to enhance their safety, tools for their development, and for what we leave our children. But I believe that the key word in this story is safety of the society and high quality standard of living. The market develops, and there are new companies offering IT services and the targeted solutions. There is an interest to digital transformation, since in the context of challenging geopolitical changes, digital technologies are the only way to optimize the costs and improve cost efficiency of the business. And we believe the IoT technology is a platform solution, as it enables to reach and carry out those tasks, expand the markets and create new markets, and provide more benefits to users than a mere sum of the elements of different composed to different solutions. What are the benefits of the IoT platform, of the platform approach? First of all, it is a universal approach. For instance, if you want to install smart water and heat meters to collect data, and this data is accumulated on one platform, then this is a functional solution. Everything is fine. But if later on you want to move to smart lighting, then to implement the concept smart lighting, you need another platform. Whereas when there is a universal approach is applied, then these two projects could be easily combined into one. And then there is no need to start everything from scratch. You simply need to add a new interface onto the platform. Whereas the access to data will be easy whenever there is the internet. The speed of implementation is another advantage of the platform solution, of the platform approach. With the ready-made mechanism of business process introduction, we connect something to the meter, to the sensor, making them smart. And there is no need to develop business cases from scratch, and it affects the speed of the introduction of this technology, which is vital in terms of the fast-developing market. And there is another advantage of safety, as the data on the platform is processed and secured by the platform. Access is provided to authorized users only, and the level of access is flexibly adjusted, and including the territorial distribution. The universality and the flexibility of this approach makes the use of this platform most optimal. And now I'd like to present to you the specific business cases that show how our platform Smart Cloud already can help the government, business and society. Let's start with the case which is about the transportation of solid wastes. Well, the project itself is very simple. The containers that collect solid wastes or the recyclable materials, there are sensors that detect the degree of their fullness, and as soon as the container is full, then the route of the transportation of the vehicles that transport the solid wastes, and based on the data collected, there is the itinerary designed with the minimum cost for the maintenance for waste transportation, and there is the real economic effect achieved. To implement this project, we developed a number of sensors installed on different containers, and they have different functionalities. The simplest one detects the fire of solid waste burning and the volume of the waste in the container. And more advanced, they have the metering of angle, and the most advanced, they also identify the location of this container on the map. And introduction of these technologies will help us implement most cost-efficient itineraries for vehicles and use the mapping services for the users, for the customers. And in this case, this is a win-win situation in terms of speed. With Operator 1, last year, we implemented a pilot in Grodno, and the results were highly efficient in terms of the use of the data collected, and the next step is to introduce the information about all the containers for the city of Grodno, and for each site we know which containers are available there in this or that site and which type of collection of solid waste is carried out. Next slide shows an interface of the status of the site with the degree of the completeness of the container and the status of a sensor. After introducing this system, we can optimize the logistics of the transport and cost reduction for waste disposal and more efficient business processes. Another business case I want to present is the so-called data collection from meters. This is a case which is of concern for everyone today. Well, data collection from metering devices is of crucial importance since this data collection enables us to optimize and accelerate the process of payment for the services provided, and this data could be used to prevent some frauds with the use of resources. And here I'd like to dwell and tell you what has been done. The business case is fully designed on data collection from water meters, and in a series of slides I'm going to show you display the interfaces that collect data from individual meters and residential meters installed for one residential building, and the data could be presented in the form of the charts. And since there are overall residential building meters and individual meters data, we can benchmark and compare them. This interface enables you to monitor the status of the meter and to manage the process itself. In case the meters use NB-OT technology, then inside the meters include a model, NB-OT model, which is characterized by the provision of the AMI code and the SIM card of this or that telecom operator. And the metering process of these devices AMA and AMC, the status and the location of this or that meter in the network of the telecom provider is visible on the platform. And this platform also applies all the technologies with the subsequent replacement of the meter if it is malfunctioning or requires replacement because of any other reasons. Lightning. Lightning is one of the most important elements of the concept smart city when we say that there should be cost-efficient lightening of roads and inside areas, parks. And introduction of these solutions helps save electricity and power in cities in substantial amounts where it is introduced. But we say that we should not only meter and manage city lamps, but any structures used for this purpose could act as the smart structure with the meters of meteorological data, air quality data, and to meter the quality of the road pavement. And in case if they are located close to the road crossings, then manage the lightning of road crossings in the place where they are located. And an important role is to be mentioned that together with the company Vitis that designs and produces LED lamps, we developed a system of management of these lamps. And Vitis, since it designs charging batteries for electric cars and scooters and other electric machines, we developed a system which helps us to monitor remotely all these devices. Another important element in the city infrastructure is to monitor the state of the water sewage systems. So the meter, which actually controls the openness, is installed generally at the top of the well, and it is not connected to the scuttle or the trap door. And in case the cover is stolen, then it is stolen with a meter. Whereas our solution is that it will be installed at the top of the well, and this way we will monitor the location of the slot, and also we can control the volume of water or the presence of any hazardous substances there. Another case is of parking slots. This is an important element that could be implemented in the following way. In parking slots, there are meters which monitor the availability of the vehicles, and these meters could be outside or inside, but in any case, the main objective is that having the information about the vacant parking slots, the residents of the city or the guests of the city can quickly find it and pay for the parking slot if it is charged. And a special attention should be drawn to the following: that the use of this IoT platform quite often in those areas which are not widely recognized. For instance, there was a task to monitor stoppers used actively in any railroad depot. By using these stoppers, unfortunately, they are lost or misused, and this stopper left unattended may cause some collisions, and this is quite challenging. And therefore, together with A1, we implemented a pilot in Vitebsk which suggested that the use of meters that will control the location in the area of the stopper itself and its location, geolocation, reduces the maintenance costs and the use of these costs and prevent different technical accidents or challenges. But it should be noted that this experiment showed that our stopper, which was located, and the meter and its body was not very efficient as it was beyond the dimension of the stopper and became a failure quite soon. At present, we are designing a device that will be inside the stopper and then inside the dimensions of the stopper, and then it will be more efficient. And in the end, I'd like to note that at tibo, our company offers smart cloud platform solutions that today allows us to implement much more business cases than those highlighted in my presentation, and we are ready for further development of these solutions with any company interested. Our company does not only develop the platform solutions, but also the devices used to implement the IoT concept in practice and smart cities in particular. Thank you very much. I will be delighted to answer your questions, if any, and I do encourage you to visit our stand here at the exhibition, tibo exhibition, and there is the interactive model of smart neighborhood showing the benefits of this today. Thank you, Simeon. Hello, I'm pleased to see you as a speaker at this forum, and I have a question to you. Everything is fine, what you say. It seems that we have everything, but when are we going to hold this forum in a specific district or region where it is already implemented in practice to show how it is in practice, as the technologies, the devices themselves are quite clear to everyone, and the value is when you can see it in practice to see whether it is really needed for municipalities. Well, in view of the speech by Yuri and you and the presentation by Vitaly about the readiness of MTS to ensure these communities to come to a separate district. Pavel, you designed a program for the digital development of our country for the next 5 years. And this program includes the responsible authorities to implement the provisions of this program. And in this case, we as a Belarusian company engaging or specializing in IoT, we are ready for any projects in this area. But to accelerate the pace of its implementation, there should be a demand from the stakeholders concerned, and these stakeholders are cities. Municipalities, city municipalities must act as the employers of these solutions, and based on the infrastructure of any operator ready to develop the concept smart city, we will be ready to implement it. So we are ready to implement these pilots, if any, and we'll be delighted to show in practice those technologies that could be implemented. Thank you very much for your answer. Hopefully this initiative will not be lost. I got that actually I asked this question to myself. We need to wake up the cities. Thank you very much for your work and for joint ideas or solutions to wake them up. Thank you.
Konstantin Konstantinovich would like to hear the towns and cities. Well, I have one more practical question. A smart sensor means that it has some battery in it. If there are many sensors, how they are going to be serviced? And what is the lifetime of the sensor while it has some charge in it still? Definitely, thank you very much. In fact, there are two groups of sensors. One group of sensors, if it is possible to hook up them to external power supply, if they have any battery on board, it is needed to ensure the sensor's operation once there is a blackout. And I was speaking about smart lighting, but I don't think it makes sense making energy-independent sensors on the slopes when there is electricity, because without this it will be no light. But there are many sensors that are based on the batteries, like the parking sensors, the open and closed sensors, and in order to ensure the long lifespan, we have to apply energy-saving technologies, and there are such technologies. Mobile providers develop the NB-OD, Nobel Internet of Things, and this ensures 5 to 10 years operation. Alternative developers offer the LoRa technology and others or ERF interfaces that use the energy-efficient data transmission in order to expand the lifespan of sensors. Today there are practical implementations already of such sensors. It all depends on the application and time. Thank you. Have you had to replace the power units in Grodno? Well, we had to. When any of the sensors starts operating, then we start facing challenges with them. When we created the first sensor, the terms of reference was as follows. Let's get information on the waste bin once a day to save the battery resource, but this frequency was not good because it was rarely done. And in the morning, the waste container can be filled in the morning very rapidly, and we wouldn't know that. So on the one hand, we have to ensure that we get maximum of information on time, and on the other hand, we have to be energy efficient in data sharing, and we addressed this issue. Our sensor collects data at a certain frequency, once in half an hour or once an hour. This data is shared once in 6 hours, unless there's the threshold reached, and then the sensor goes on air saying that the container is, let's say, 85% filled with garbage. This is a constant challenge, the frequency of getting the data and the efficiency of the battery. So when we adjusted it, yes, we had to replace batteries in our sensors. Thank you. I understand that technologies improve. I understand that on weekends there can be less waste because people travel outside cities, and during the office days there's more waste, and it is possible to project these things by analyzing the data. Yes, thank you very much. So the consumers of this the city is going to tell us how this can be used. Maxim Bardovich, Director of IT Center of Municipal Unitary Enterprise of the Minsk City Executive Committee, with the presentation called Challenges and Risks of Building Digital Cities. There was the Skynet logo on the screen, so will the Skynet conquer our cities? They will conquer, but not at once. All of us heard about preparing for smart cities and development of smart cities, and we would like to say about the practicalities of how this happens, because we've heard about the readiness of our cities to develop. And definitely these things are good, but in the places, especially if we speak about towns and rural councils that report to towns, not everything is so optimistic and good. First of all, I would like to acquaint you with our state-owned enterprise. We have a small video on us. Digital Technology Center, 21 years in the market. Over 100 services provided. Over 1,300 satisfied clients. Over 5,700 successful implementations. The key areas of activity is digital transformation of business processes, development, assistance and deployment of corporate information systems, providing call center services, systemic and technical maintenance of computers and video surveillance systems, implemented projects, national platform called My Republic, geoinformation resources, automated information system of utilities, automated system of crop rotation, of housing, business portal of Minsk City. We are trusted by the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, Ministry of Anti-Monopoly, Regulation and Trade, Ministry of Housing and Utilities, Ministry of Architecture and Construction, Minsk City Executive Committee, the Mayor's Office, the regional governments, the private sector entities and state-owned enterprises, and citizens of Belarus. We address the following challenges and issues: a lack of primary digital data, necessity to train and build a computer literacy, lacking digital infrastructure, resistance to innovations. The IT Center of the Minsk City Executive Committee, the national platform My Republic, a mobile app of Mobile Republic, the call service for mobile subscribers, 115 Bell telephone service hotline, geoinformation resources, energy efficiency map, environmental map of Minsk City. Thank you. And now we can proceed with the presentation. We are a 21-year-old enterprise operating in the market of Belarus. We are not just a developer and integrator, but also an implementer of our solutions. We implement them in the field. We deal with the people. We get the feedback of the people, their suggestions, grievances. We get the feedback from the government sector and from our colleagues who use our software applications in the field. Smart city or digital city, this is where there are digital sectors of the economy: education, health, transportation, construction, commerce, utilities, and public services. If we say that the city is smart, then it's convenient and comfortable to citizens, business, and the government. When we speak about the general city, this is going to be a long presentation, but we would like to go to one of the sector. As in Minsk City and around the country, cities face similar challenges. Certainly there are some individual things, but we would like to say how this happens. What are the challenges when you deal with implementation in the place, in the field, and we will use our example. There's a problem of digitalizing housing and utilities services. I'm speaking about the 115.bell hotline service. When we deployed our system across the cities and towns of Belarus, we visited more than 100 towns and cities. It took us a year to implement and deploy this software product. And there are 5 key issues that were asked once we came to them. Who are you? It was the first question. People didn't know who we were, what we offered, why they needed it, and why they should use it. So we can say that Certainly towns were different, but they had those 5 questions, common questions, and we had to answer them, offer our solutions, and then we could start deployment. What are the main challenges that are faced in the towns? And these challenges get smaller as you go to smaller cities, or sometimes they scale up. Large cities progress faster, and smaller towns lag behind in digitalization, and every organization is afraid of novelties. And the people who work with the software app, when they are offered to have a new app, this is a stressy environment because this person is intervened by some processes without understanding why he or she needs it. Closeness. When you enter any sector trying to digitalize it, you can see that a company or an enterprise or the implementer tries to close information. They're not willing to disclose their contact details, their information. They are not ready to work with the product. They are not ready to communicate. And we have to address this issue. Third, weak digital infrastructure. Yes, again, I would like to say that towns and cities differ. But once we visit small towns, the infrastructure is there, but it is weak. So we say that, yes, we have to develop cloud technologies, develop 4G and 5G, bring networks to every home, every organization in order for them to use this infrastructure. Lacking primary data. This is the biggest pain that we are facing. If we want to digitalize anything, we have to source primary data. This is what we have to digitalize, and it turns out that once people change, primary data is impossible to identify. Also, this is lacking digitalized and structured information. Data is there as is. Nobody aggregated this information. Nobody wrapped up the information, just there. And when you start asking why this and that, why figures get in the different tables, organizations cannot really say why they operate this way. And lacking priorities in setting the tasks. You come to them, the person works at his or her workplace, the person is 8 hours busy a day, and the person doesn't want to deploy this with you because it is an extra work that you give to this person. It's not the person coming to you, but you force them to adopt your business processes. Low digital literacy. Yes, indeed, especially in small communities, we have to consider that there is computer illiteracy. People frequently do not know how to use Excel files, how they can set filters, how they can do it, and we have to train people to do it. If there are challenges, we have to address them. Therefore, the solutions are: when we implement our software product, we have the client care department. So what does that mean? These are the people in the field who travel to the clients and who work with the team that is going to use the software product or the platform solution. This is impossible to do it without having this dedicated team. This is the rule to be followed by everybody who wants to work in the field. You have to go there for 1, 2, 3 months, and you have to be working next to your client. You have to bring them to the computer, show them how this works, and then continue showing, depicting how this is done for some time, and listen to them when they fail, because we do not really know what processes that happen in the field. Using the administrative leverage. Maybe this does not sound good, but you will not succeed without it. We don't want to say that administrative leverage is issuing orders and instructions. We want to say that if a company, if the organization wants to digitalize, and there should be the will of the management. They should have a will to implement this digital product, or they have to digitalize their processes. Otherwise, this will fail. You you will not give them the software platform telling them use it. Sources of funding. Any implementation, any solution requires money, big or small, but this is the money you have to source, fundraise, and channel to address the issues. Restoring the data and integration of IT systems. If you don't have data, then you have to restore it either through the archives of the enterprise or in the information systems that are available. We had a case with the data on households. If we had no information on them in the field, then we integrated with the data from the housing register to get this information. Digitalization of data. This is the largest part of the implementation. When we do it manually from paper or records or from the Excel files, and we manually move it to the digital platform in order to use it later for our operations. And believe me, in any implementations, this is the biggest effort that needs to be taken in the field. You have to use it, do it, launch it, and once the data are converted into digital, then it is much easier working on it. Creating digital systemic approaches to training and upskilling of staff. Okay, we install the software and then you have to train the people. You train the people on the job. When you implement your solutions, and additionally in the future we have to constantly train and re-educate and upskill the staffing with the staff once we do it, or we have to train the staff once the staff is employed. If you do not educate your staff, then they self-educate. Some of them, using the software product, tell their peers on the job how to use it, and they disable them using the analytical tools. And now we smoothly move to the risks. We've mentioned the challenges. And now we are speaking about risks, and the risks are as follows. If we remove any of the blocks from this pyramid, then the entire pyramid will collapse. That's the largest risk that we face. So we have to have an integrated, a comprehensive implementation, and we have to be sure that we get successful outcomes. Only once we are experienced, we can understand how to do it in localities. Thank you very much. Maxim, maybe you will invite us to your smart event? Yes, of course. Well, I thought that you have already visited our stand, so come to our stand. And we are going to have a large discussion, right? Yes, this will be on day 3 or 4. We will be saying and discussing how we implemented all our solutions and what we are ready to offer today. Okay, thank you. In fact,
you have very good solutions and very powerful team. Even it challenges the ministry a bit. But my question as well is the following. It's clear that it accelerates the decision making. And this 15 bell. At present, yes, you are right. For Minsk, for instance, if to compare it, daily we process 5,000 queries from the population and monthly over 150,000 queries from population provided, detailing their complaints, their problems, asking the utilities to resolve some issues. Well, everyone waits that IT technologies will optimize the costs, but in view of the growth of the queries, the costs are to increase. Yes, in practice, the costs may increase, but in the city, we may review and analyze the problems, most burning ones, set a plan and allocate funding, because the key challenge is when we don't know what is going on in the infrastructure, whereas here the population itself gives some tips and hints to the authorities what needs to be changed. Yes, at some point it increases the costs to harmonize and improve the infrastructure, but later on, when we improve and carry out our systematic work, then the queries must reduce. And you know, year to year, the number of queries across the country, and Minsk in particular, is more or less the same. For Minsk, it is about 2 million queries a year. Well, the elements of statistics are very convenient, not only statistics and analytics, and a model that helps the heads of the organizations to make decisions and review the challenges. And this is a request not as part of the forum, but from the ministry. Maybe you must make this hotline 115 free of charge. It's not our matter. I would refer it back to the ministry. Look, the telecom operators and providers charge their fees, and the lowest charge is from Beltelecom. Well, then we will work together. Thank you very much. Well, dear colleagues, we listened to the domestic speakers, but let us listen to Russians, what they think about the development of peculiarities in applying cloud platforms in the person-to-government model. Yaroslav Tarasov, Deputy Director for Technical Development and Operations, Vosklod R&D institution. Thank you very much for this opportunity and the invitation and the opportunity to share our practices, our views, our visits, our visions, and learn something new from you and your successes as well. Well, my speech will be devoted on the application of cloud platforms in the person-to-government model. And immediately I'd like to say two things. I will not overload you with too high-tech technologies. Other speakers were successful in this. And secondly, I'd like to pay your attention that in this paradigm, person-to-government, person is vital. And the peculiarity of digital transformation is that the personal double, its attributes and characteristics of this digital double will actually dictate the success of digital transformation. When we say a person, we mean not only a citizen of Russia, but any citizen in the territory of Russia. It may be a contractor, a student, a fan, a sportsman. This or that way, all the groups of people must and can, in my understanding, use the services of digital state. For instance, in Moscow and Kazan, they tested the cards of a guest, and it simplifies the life of fans or tourists and their interaction with health authorities and registration authorities. So you don't need to submit the documents. When at the border checkpoint you get a card and you can use it without any difficulties. And the government of Russia at present pays a lot of attention to digital interaction of its citizens. And as you know, there is a very promising program opened to shape digital environment. And first of all, that is the passport of the digital passport as a substitution to the conventional passport, mobile card on any other device, mobile, telephone or table, which does not substitute the conventional passport, but will enable you to get about 40 public services without submission of the original copy of your document. Well, I may say that here we are progressing quite well to reach our success. Over the last 10-15 years, a lot of solutions created to simplify the life of citizens of Russia. About 100 information systems of the federal level created, but we will not talk about the state federal systems, but about cloud platforms. We will agree that an ordinary citizen, he doesn't care which technology or the solution is used to provide this or that digital service. What matters is ease, reliability, and security. And most importantly, that it is available 24/7, 365 days a year. And he doesn't care. And the consequence is the development of cloud technologies in the lead, when, through the distributed databases and the distributed computations, there is the relevant availability, accessibility, and scale-up is ensured. We, as the specialists and the professionals in what we do, it's clear that the guaranteed provision of digital services by the state to the citizens is not possible from clouds without the relevant risks attached. And we all know about these risks. And this or that way, Russia is on its road to input substitution. And I'm talking about the political and technological risks. And we have some support programs opened to national developers of software that will substitute the technological and political dependence we face today. And by the way, right now, there is the first peculiarity in application of cloud technologies. We know how to create information system, scale them up, and develop functionalities, but another challenge is to rely on the expertise and the experience and to use it without challenging the benefits of the citizens for the production of products, first of all, on cloud platforms, which is most vulnerable. I don't know whether you know it or not, but in Russia there is the nationwide cloud platform, which is an experiment for the time being, and a number of enforcement authorities actually transferred all the information system, and the leader in the company, Beltelecom, provides maintenance and supports and administration, and we are at stage 2 when we start deploying Russian solutions for the setup of the cloud platforms and the hardware made in Russian as well, to avoid those risks which we face today. At present, we actively develop legislation, in particular in the area of information security, that will protect personal data, and this nationwide cloud platform, first of all, stems from this legislation and the requirements of regulator that secures the protection of the personal data. The second peculiarity of cloud platform is the number of state information systems. To be able to administer this number is very expensive and difficult. The state, through different cloud solutions, in order to improve the quality and safety of digital services, to apply such approaches as big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, and robotics. And the super information system, that is the future, and those super services provided. And this way we will reduce their number, but at the same time could ensure the seamless transition of data and service provision. The third peculiarity is that cloud platforms and the services they provide must be able to operate in different paradigms and patterns of cooperation between the citizens and the government, particularly in the context of disasters or emergencies. As Natalia said before, such an example is COVID. I cannot say what happens to Belarus when the validity date of passport in Belarus expired, but for instance in the territory of Moscow all the migration institutions were closed during the lockdown, and a person from May to June, many people, so their passports became invalid. And from the point of view of the law enforcement agencies, this passport is not valid. He may not fly to any other country, he cannot do something, his property is not valid, and what to do? And when you have the passport of a digital holder, it would be easier because the data is in the cloud but not on the carrier. The carrier needed the biometrical and other attributes, and then the system of the law enforcement agencies or medical institutions checks whether it is valid on the cloud or not. And the second example is, for instance, the system of the circulation of the civil weapons used for hunting. In summer, the authorization became invalid and the relevant authority was closed. So actually, formally, any agent could come to me and could penalize me. It was not done. Why? Because the chief operations and analytical or analysis center was engaged, and through the relevant authorities, there was an authorization to extend everything automatically, but in case there is this digital permit available, then the information will be updated automatically, and there are no challenges faced by a citizen when he communicates with the government. And the fourth peculiarity is the speed of the data processing in order to implement these platforms. So actually, we wanted to create in every municipality is data processing center. It's not always better. It's better to use the data processing center as the service. I will give you an example. So there is the nationwide cloud platform using the infrastructure of Rostelecom. And at present, we are developing a mechanism when the computation sources will be provided by different corporations, Rostech, Rosatom, that already have the well-secured and reliable data processing centers. And in overall, there is only a challenge of the regulator, how to ensure the security and safety of these data processing centers, how to certify or attest them, and whether to provide access to the market international data processing centers, Yandex or Mail or any Gmail. And here the idea is that we should actually isolate the data processing center itself, where the cloud will operate. It's important, but in conclusion, I would like to focus your attention to the following, and that is the issue of interoperability. I was quite surprised to note that at the summit there is a section on the discussion of functional interoperability of different information systems. And since our institute is a development, is the operator and a service provider for a number of state services, for instance, the passport services, the functionality and interoperability when it is moved to the cloud or the creation of super new state services, this is a cornerstone challenge, and we'll be pleased to participate in this session. Ready to answer questions meanwhile? Thank you very much. I have a few questions or statements from myself. It's clear that many approaches you implement match ours, and therefore I strongly believe that it would be great to implement some projects together, either as part of the union state, and using the joint allocations, or as the CIS and other unions. So we would like to find some ways to implement projects together. And as regards the documents, there was a good example when Moscow introduced a lockdown, and there was a prompt decision on the issue of these temporary single-time permits. It worked well, and actually this project had to be implemented within the short time, and it was a success. And I got very interested in your nationwide cloud platform. which is to be implemented or deployed on national solutions because of different reasons, political, information, technological. Could you assess the degree of domestic manufacture inside this cloud platform, nationwide cloud platform? Thank you for your question. Look, it is not a secret. I'm not the primary source. I cannot give you the figure as I'm not the bearer of knowledge, but, for instance, Yandex Email has its own cloud solution, and you understand that it is on OpenStep technology. It's not a miracle. And whether we may call them domestically made or not, we have a special committee under the Ministry of Industry and Trade that makes the relevant decisions whether it is of Russian origin or not. And there, the information is there. But my concern, or the way of thinking, is more of protection of information on cloud technologies. This is a very sensitive issue. I did not mention in my speech, but I believe you faced it as the market of commercial data protection of cloud technologies is not broad and wide enough, and of the national as well, even it is smaller. And the development of secured cloud technologies and the means of data protection in cloud platforms, that is a challenge when we talk about the Russian manufacture or domestic origin. The issue we face quite often, whether it will increase the cost of final services. Yes, the cost will reduce, but a part of these costs will be refunded by the state. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, we are behind the schedule. As I understand, we have 2 presentations left. That is Bozilev, Head of End Customer Relations in the IT segment from Schneider Electric, with a presentation called Edge Computation Trends. Hello, colleagues. Thank you very much to the organizers enabling me to share the vision of Schneider Electric, the vision of development of digitalization from the infrastructure provider point of view. We are the company responsible for the infrastructure. Therefore, we are going to discuss how we see the goals and objectives of digitalization in the meantime that our clients around the world face. Today, I will use the real cases and examples why peripheral computing is important and it is an integral part of digital transformation of any enterprise. Digitalization, absolutely everywhere, healthcare, retail, industry, take it, and this generates more and more data that we have to cope with. The number of devices grows, the number of devices that are engaged in the generation and processing of raw data, and therefore we have the job to provide infrastructure and equipment for this, and we, Schneider Electric, offer this infrastructure. Let's take a case study. It is one of our clients who has a few large sites located in the Northern Sea. They are disseminated and they are far from the central data house. This is an oil platform that was designed by our software for 3D design AEVA in order to work with the digital twin of the site. And as you understand, this site generates lots of data that needs to be collected and processed in order to make decisions. How do you think the client shared the data with the central data house? They're from such a remote location? So, we could see the trend of peripheral computing. Previously, they would share the data with the central data house, but in order to make it faster than competition, we have to introduce peripheral computing for collection and processing and analysis of data to be as close as possible to the raw data. Irrespective of the segment, everybody thinks about the same challenges that all of us are facing. Physical security, access control, minimizing the time to identify the reasons of failure, troubleshooting if you have hundreds or thousands of sites that are disseminated geographically, then we have to create unique solutions at every site. We have to send the people to the field, and there are risks of lacking skilled personnel on sites. There are companies that produce rotating mechanisms and critical equipment, and the question is how to maintain this without delays and shutdowns. There are applications that enable to forecast when the devices break, and then if you repair the turbine before one of its wings fails and breaks down, you will avoid the risks. And you can imagine how much information is calculated from the terminal devices that are monitored. If we look at industrial or commercial sites where they have hundreds and thousands of devices that have to be managed in real time, the scope of the challenges is enormous. And then the question is about interoperability of the cloud and communication. If we connect the device to the cloud directly, it looks perfect, but in fact clients might face delays in the network, autonomous modes, difficulties, and services can be interrupted. The issues of security and safety, if it is a public cloud, how to delete it, how to move it, how to encrypt data, the bandwidth, the data is expanding, and the channels either become expensive or they cannot cope with the data because the sites can generate terabytes of data. And all the data have to be shared with the cloud, and part of the data is stored locally in design institutions or healthcare institutions. And then it becomes known that the architecture that the clients are used to start facing the trouble when it won't work, because there are multiple devices that work with the central cloud, and we have delays. We have the issue of delays. And we have issues of safety, security, the cost of service, and efficiency and productivity. We have to ensure edge computing, and this is a peripheral device that is located in the periphery, and we have to ensure a corresponding infrastructure. This means that the boundary, that the limit of liability expands. And then the management has to be responsible not only for the central data house, but also for getting the data from the sources of raw data, because it becomes critical to the business. This architecture is a hierarchy. Once you process data, the data is not so enormous, but the data becomes more critical to the company. What is in the periphery? These are the terminal devices generating data like video cam or video surveillance systems with face recognition, a network for data sharing, and local data houses to process raw data. Or if we speak about any industrial cases, then peripheral computing can be presented by containers for converting the data from industrial protocols into the standard communication protocols. We, Schneider Electric, can offer the following to such projects. This is the infrastructure microdata data center, a EcoStructure micro data center. This includes uninterrupted power supply, protection and monitoring. And irrespective of the locations and applications, we have solutions that are S series, the C series. These are, for example, less prepared, like data centers that are not actually presented by an individual premise, or R series. These are vulnerable environments. And there are a few case studies. Digital support to sale points, like a super compact mini data center to save the shopping area. The lithium batteries, 10 years of standalone operation, low sensitivity to temperature variation, to analyze consumer behavior, to build the heat maps in retail, etc. You need significant computing resources and a reliable infrastructure with access control. Then, speaking of the industrial floors, speaking of data house management systems, transport control systems, and etc., we have already developed a solution to optimize location of the equipment in specially designed dedicated premises. For example, you have to make a soundproof infrastructure, so you can save it without dedicating standalone server rooms. And one of the important elements in managing the peripheral computation centers is to ensure centralized monitoring. This is the monitoring of the equipment and of the network to ensure technological monitoring, access control. To support these tasks, we offer the infrastructure IT expert solution. This is not just monitoring in real time, but this is predictive analysis of the condition of the equipment. So we, based on the indirect indicators and the accumulated big data in our cloud, can forecast when the equipment is going to fail, and we give this information to the maintenance service for them to plan their costs and to optimize their operations, to troubleshoot cases when the infrastructure fails. In the end, one more case study. This is a large international retail chain. Over 2,000 stores. They have used our local software for a long time for monitoring the infrastructure. We offered them an upgrade and moving into the cloud. And thanks to using the predictive analysis, we could see interesting conclusions that the client got, like the decrease of the errors in the infrastructure, improved reliance by 82% of the stores, and this is freeing 3,600 hours for the employees who will work with the clients, not on the physical infrastructure troubleshooting. Speaking of the recipe of success, it is important to standardize solutions, backup solutions, and ensure monitoring and management. A large enterprise can have hundreds of nodes, and sometimes they lack human resources to maintain it, and the issue of security. This includes physical and digital safety and security. Wrapping up, digitalization brings advantages in terms of growing competitiveness, and there are challenges as well associated with this. We, Schneider Electric, have a unique market positioning because we have a turnkey solution starting from the engineering infrastructure for peripheral solutions, and developed and advanced software solutions, including analytical solutions that we have implemented, and we'll be happy sharing our international practices and ready-made solutions and case studies if you are interested. Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving to the next presenter, I have one question only. If any organization or company can be digitalized, it's a good question. Let's put it this way. The prerequisite for successful implementation and digitalization is the willingness of the stakeholders and their will of the sponsors of these digitalization projects. So I think if the client is committed to support this digitalization project, all advantages and benefits will be fully harvested. Thank you very much.
Well, let's move on to the next report. Turnkey digital enterprise transformation. Well, I would like to have someone who will come and say there is a turnkey economy digital transformation. And I believe many companies would like to get such solutions. I want you to digitalize me. Well, Oleg Zerniaev, pre-sale department head, national platform, turnkey digital enterprise transformation. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak at this conference. This is our second presentation, and this is a good tradition to attend tibo in summer. And my today's presentation is on enterprise digitalization, and I'm really happy that we can talk about the industry, manufacturing sector, what Belarus takes pride in. Slides? Well, today a lot has been said about digitalization. And you know, in the end of this session, I'd like to come back to the start. What is it about? So here you see digitalization and the digital transformation. Digitalization of information, that is changing the format of information. And it often happens in enterprises as there are layouts and drawings in paper, whereas later on they are turned into 2D or 3D models. The next term is the process of digitalization. This is the targeted changes in the processes in different operations or a few operations with the relevant impacts. And the digital transformation is something more serious, substantial, which substantially changes the pattern of operation of an enterprise. For instance, Yandex Taxi, when robots detecting GPS navigation and artificial intelligence introduced. So this sector changed a lot. And now I want to briefly present to you the examples of enterprises applying these terms and practices. Well, digitalizing, that is turning into the digital format of the content and the product. It could be posted on the internet in the marketplace, and our clients may order the products electronically for the date which they find convenient, in the numbers they find convenient, and at the same time we get a possibility after getting these orders to plan our work on their execution. If it is the classifier of those components or elements we use to produce the products, after sharing this on the internet, we get the possibility to monitor the prices, their changes, and interact with our suppliers. And a similar situation is with deliveries. In Russia, there is a promotion of legal e-document flow. It's very important that when you get the document, that is, you must be sure that it is the accurate information. A few words about digitalization. In this slide, you see a very simple chain of functions, of stages, phases of product production, from processing order and planning the materials, the supplies, the production and the assembly and the shipment. By linking the functions into this chain, into a coherent system, we can accelerate the time required to fulfill the order, to improve the accuracy of the order, reduce the number of stock, and accelerate the circulation, money, product, product, money. And the third concept, substantial changes, that is when our information systems which automate our processes, they are in cloud, when we integrate our systems with the controllers, with sensors on the machines, and we get prompt data on our business processes. And we talked a lot about this today, or robotization, integration of systems into the industrial robots. Substantial changes to the business models. A few words about the ERP system MA3, which is developed by the National System Platform. So, this automatization of the cross-cutting production chain, it depends only on 7 models of our solution. But altogether, our system includes over 50 models. The effects I mentioned above, in case we consider different functions and processes, there will be much more than this number if we design a comprehensive solution. Our today's section is called IT Market Trends and Innovations. Therefore, I'd like to say a few words about the trends in the IT market and where we are moving. At present, there is a very popular modern story of the application of cloud systems. And similar trends are in ERP system. When you transfer them to cloud, you reduce the costs from capital costs to operational costs. And the standardization of processes with many clients, making them standard and typical, the culture of servicing and system maintenance, which could not be ensured by domestic IT department. And therefore, outsourcing of maintenance of cloud services is outside or beyond the company, the enterprise. If we, in terms of deployment of this system, when it is cloud, it is much easier. You get access and you may start applying the functions already there or making some changes, if any. In terms of the geographically distributed solution, in case of using cloud platforms, it's easier for you to set up new offices on new production sites. And only 5% of companies by 2020 introduced ERP in line with cloud technology, based on cloud technology. Whereas this year, about 80% of the companies consider this as an option for themselves. Coming back to the trends, here in my slide you see a Gartner review about the past, present, and future of ERP system development. As you know, Gartner is the marketing agency, one of the few that in a comprehensive way monitors the trends and the changes in IT market. ERP system originally, that is the idea of centralization of all the processes into one solid solution. And this solution became more complex to cover more and more processes, whereas the situation now changes. The current trend is to take a part of the functions onto the cloud. Maybe not the full system, but start from some typical processes. For instance, order handling or PR department, HR department. So the key part of this system is retained in the company, and the next step that is announced by Gartner is the composite ERP solutions. So ERP offers good practices, change your enterprise in line with your processes, whereas now the process is reverse. When IT vendors say that your processes are of value, you know a lot about your business, you learned how to create competitive advantage, and we are ready to change our systems and adapt them to your processes. This is about the composite ERPs. There is some solid, unchangeable part about accountancy and record keeping, whereas there are solutions that can flexibly change some processes or the functions to meet the needs of the enterprise. Coming back to the system, we develop ERP system MA3. It is fully ready to be applied on cloud. And first of all, the interface to be able to work with the system via the internet browser. Low requirements, you can apply mobile devices and the architecture of the platform itself, and the possibility to isolate settings for a separate client as part of the cloud. Integration means all those tools that enable us to create hybrid clouds, a part in the cloud and a part in the enterprise. So a possibility of remote administration, because the cloud-based model of ERP with the cloud subscription, the administration function is generally carried out by a subcontractor. And moreover, the convenience. You can dynamically change the number of your users depending on your needs and demands, opening of new offices and getting new orders. And in the end, at the end of my today's presentation, I would like to say a few words explaining why our clients select MA3. It is a mature technology. It has been developed for over 35 years. And there are a lot of users at the same time, simultaneous users. This is what none of the existing Russian ERP system in the market can offer. We exceed the volumes or the numbers of users at the same time, almost 5 times compared to our key rivals. And this is what enables us to say seriously about input replacement and the substitution of large, bulky ERP solutions in enterprises which have this demand. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, you're welcome. Well, a question that may be of interest to business as the users. Did you make any analysis or any comparison, if it is MA3 local or on cloud? Honestly speaking, no, we didn't do it. It's clear that this is a transfer of your costs for the future. You may buy a license today, or the company actually provides the installments by paying the cost of this license in parts. This is a financial model. And a similar situation is about the costs, administration costs, upgrade or update of the system, and other upgrades. It could be included into the subscription fee or implemented as part of the project. From the point of view of the use of the holding ownership, these are delayed costs. It's like in case of bank loans, when your mortgage is paid out throughout many years. Thank you very much, because this is a traditional concern that my data is not here but over there. At least this is what I hear from the Belarusian businesses. Yes, this is a challenge. This is a serious trouble. But today we develop these state data processing centers, and the security requirements are even more stringent there. And most interestingly, the legislation changes, and it is in the process of amending. And the process is happening to software, a similar trends are in hardware. And now we are getting closer to the implementation of such a notion as the Russian-wide data processing centers. Yes, there are some risks, some components, but there are a lot of elements that will enable us to create the Russian-wide data processing center. Well, dear colleagues, thank you very much. Maybe in the audience we have some other questions. We are coming to the end of this plenary session. Okay, so seems there are no questions from the audience. Then thank you very much to all of you. And we've discussed many things, and we see that these are the trends to expect in the future, in the near future, and it will impact many projects discussed today, such as IoT, smart cities, and the proper selection of approaches to apply will determine our future. There is no common single technology to select, saying that it will be only one available. But as Yuri said, this is the setup and building of convergent networks, and diversification of technologies is required to ensure safety and security and reliability of networks constructed. Thank you very much to all of you. Now we are having a break. So wish you the good continuation of the day and have a good day. Bye-bye.